Hello and welcome to this week's Leaders Having Lunch with me, Jeff Conroy. And today I have a special guest that I am excited about talking with, and that is Mr. Scot Frazer. How you doing, Scot?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Scot has got an amazing story, and I'm not going to steal his thunder. So let's just jump right into it. Scot, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, former Army, nonprofit volunteer, and recently married, and just always looking for an opportunity to give back to my community.
Wow, that's short.
Yeah,
sweet,
concise. It's all about brevity. Some training goes away. It's all about brevity.
Are you from the Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene area?
Not originally. I was actually born in Mountain View, California. My father was an undercover narcotics officer, and he decided California was not the place to be, so he came up and became a Kootenai County sheriff's deputy in '83. So there are pictures of me at the shore next to the resort and chopping up lots of firewood. The only constant in life is change, so
Exactly.
he decided to hang up his badge and become a proprietor. So we moved to Arizona, and he started up a restaurant chain, and yeah, I'm back. Thankfully, the military, after my last deployment, after I came off active duty, I was contracted into the Army Reserves, and they gave me two choices. One was Torii Station in Okinawa, Japan, and one was Hayden Lake, Idaho. So I discussed it with the family, and that 20-hour flight weighed heavy. And I was currently assigned to Oklahoma, so I flew out, checked out the area, immediately flashed back to childhood memories of simpler stuff, and chose Hayden. So I've been here since 2007.
Wow. Okay. So you brought up the military, and this is a show on leadership styles, and you and I have talked briefly about your leadership in the military and your belief in leadership in the military. Let's start with your military background, if we can delve into that.
Sure. So I joined in June of '99 with the intent to be an airborne ranger. And again, one thing you don't know when you go in is that it's the needs of the service, not the individual. So they ended up slotting me as a maintenance technician, and I realized that I didn't want to turn wrench for the rest of my life. I wanted to get into the fight. So I went from there to a division operations job where I picked up an administration MOS, and then I was deployed as an embedded tactical trainer, utilizing multiple MOSs. So 2-man American team, Afghan infantry company, and you just become a family and do the job. And the hope is that you can pass on some skills, and those individuals would then be able to pass them on to their people, so we would work ourselves out of a job. And I think ultimately as a leader, that's what I've always tried to do. I want to give my team the tools and the task condition standard to set them up for success, so they don't actually need me there anymore.
Right.
Wrapped up my time in Hayden, became a civilian, got my degree, started at Eastern Washington University, picked up originally a parts guy position while I was going to school, just to fill in the time. The company handled a lot of municipal equipment, and in that industry, there's a lack of integrity a lot of times with commission-driven people. So when the company principal approached me about taking on a regional sales manager role for actual equipment, I made sure that it wasn't a commission position, so I could always look my municipal elements in the eyes and say, whether you do this or not, my mortgage is paid, so let's figure out what the best solution for your operation is, and we can go from there. And unbeknownst to me, that was the abnormal approach, so it was quite successful. And then I got an opportunity to develop a new company that would employ veterans as fast as I could develop the business. They would bring in the vets, and I have a strong relationship with the National Guard and Reserve elements in the area, so as well as NIC and SEC. So we're always looking for ways to develop our young service members and give them another way to get back to the community. So 4 years of doing that in Post Falls afforded me the opportunity to join the chamber. Eventually becoming a director, working with a fantastic team of leaders and getting that different perspective on approaching situations. And I think it's developed me as a leader more to have that experience. But my current role is Director of West Coast Business Development for VARSPEC. We're a smart waste solutions provider. And while I'm working there, I'm also going to school for the GI Bill.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
trying to add more to the toolkit, so be of more value in whatever situation comes up.
More tools for the tool belt.
Yes, sir.
I 100% agree. So what is your basic leadership philosophy?
I would have to say I attack leadership from the generalist perspective. My strong suit is identifying what each member of the team brings to the table, their strong suits, their weakness, and then orchestrating them in such a way that by the time the mission's accomplished, nobody realizes that I was actually leading. Every department's getting their congratulations for a job well done.
Servant leadership mentality right there.
Yes, sir.
I love that. Wow. So who were your mentors as leaders growing up?
Oh, I've been blessed with so many. Major General Silverthorne took me on as a private. Command Sergeant Major Gomez. I have a couple coaches. I was a wrestler. Made it to state in California, which my father was 72 Munich Olympics, so state was nothing in our household.
Right.
That was expected. But I think on the military side, two of my strongest mentors were Command Sergeant Major Crocker, female, and Master Sergeant Pagan. And those two ladies showed me what it was to truly lead. And whether it was, some say they had a maternal instinct and they had the uniform and the regulations and task condition standard, but they also had that additional empathy.
Sure.
Whatever it was, I believe that they molded me into a path of giving back. So you walk into a situation and it wasn't viewed as, how is this situation affecting me today? It's, what can I do to help resolve the situation? And that switch of mission, I definitely track back to those two ladies.
Yeah.
Now, that having been said, since I've been in the area, I have also been blessed with some amazing mentors. One, unfortunately, just passed away, but Mr. Shining, for the last 11 years, he was a retired drill sergeant. So he went from the verbatim strictest of the strict to driving a 72 Carmen Kia, letting his hair grow out, and holding court at the coffee shop at 9 a.m. every day.
Love
that the farmers and the young guys could come in and bounce stuff off. And David was there when I took on the Post Falls company. Funny story there, I was waiting on two of my National Guard troops to get back from a deployment, so I was going to be short bodies for a tour. And I was venting the shortage, and Mr. Shining looked at me and said, "Well, boss, what time do I got to be there?" Now, he had 25 years at Kaiser. He knew how to run the equipment, but he'd been retired for 20 years as well. So if you want to come out and, hang out, you're more than welcome. And at 6:45 in the morning, he was standing tall right outside the shop door waiting to be assigned his machine for the day.
Awesome.
And that selfless act just blew me away, how someone could take and turn their day into giving to others, just put a good feeling back in the soul.
Yeah, that's awesome. So as you're working today, I'm a believer that leaders need to stay up on things and stay fresh and stay current. The foundation's always there for leadership, but you're always trying to learn new ways, and you're dealing with a new generation of people. The millennials, now we're dealing with the Gen Zers. Mm-hmm. What are you reading these days, or how do you keep up? How do you stay fresh? How do you stay ahead of the curve when it comes to leadership and working with people?
Well, I have probably 14 publications that I review monthly, and then, of course, I've got my podcast, but boots on the ground, honestly. I like to be at the college level. I volunteered with a couple high school programs over across the state line. I find that the sooner you can engage, you can adapt the mentality. So right now our biggest thing is with selfies, and it's all about me.
Right.
So if you can influence the youth at a young enough point to let them know there's a whole big world out there, they're going to be great because they can multitask. They've been brought up on numerous electronic devices, the app Android. You just got to figure out how to take those skills that they don't even realize they have and apply them to the mission for your organization.
Exactly. I agree with that. What's interesting is that the millennials and the Gen Zers, I'm a firm believer, and I've said it before, I'm a believer that the bad rap that the millennials get is a minority. I'm going to say it's like 5 or 10% of the millennials who act that way, and that the bad things that are said are 10%. The other 90% are fantastic, amazing, productive, incredible people. And up-and-coming leaders. I affiliate with myself with many. There's a group here called Kootenai County Young Professionals that I adore. These are all millennials who are making a difference in our community, and I think that's fantastic. And the next group coming up are the Gen Zers, and the Gen Zers are the anti-millennials. And they're the ones that don't want to be anything like a millennial. They don't want to be anything like rap. They're very private. They're not big social media people. And I have a son just like that. And so it's kind of fun. They're very task oriented, and I'm excited for that. With that workforce coming in, the Gen Z people, and it's the my age, the boomers, the end of the boomers, that have got to adapt or die, if you will. Are you finding that kind of the same thing?
Yeah, we had a couple situations at the manufacturing operation where we brought in some youth, and you're right, majority just want to fly under the radar, do the good thing, make boss happy, meet quota, hit the queue. And sadly, everything is shock and awe. Look at our 24-hour news cycle. No longer.
Oh my God, yeah, I agree with that.
I completely grew up and loved the fact that it took a week to develop a story inside a source, and message was being relayed. It wasn't being barked at you.
Yes.
So with the Z coming up, I appreciate that, because maybe we're not going to be taking extra 5 restroom breaks to make sure we've updated our Snapchat or anything else.
Right.
Maybe we'll be back to focusing on what we're being paid to do.
Right. No, what a weird concept, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I'm excited because, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I had the older people saying, well, who's going to take over the philanthropy? Who's going to take over the community service? It's not this next generation. They were speaking of my generation. And now at 55, I've heard people say, well, who's going to take over the communities? I think it's just a perpetual thing. And you know what? It works out just great. And they're great people. It's crazy.
And you're right. The only constant in life is change, and one generation's always going to think that the one coming up isn't ever going to hit their benchmarks, because it's a pride thing a little bit.
Exactly.
You don't want to think that the millennials are going to outdo what you've worked so hard to put on the table.
Right. And again, I'm not promoting them, but if you ever get affiliated with the Kootenai County Young Professionals in that group, they are on it. They're an amazing group of people.
Actually just got linked up. I was over in Seattle for the grand opening of Vets in Tech Seattle chapter. So Oracle, Google, Facebook, all the heavy hitters, they have finally realizing that there may be something to this whole employing veterans and giving them a mission and letting some outside the box things happen.
See, and I love the work that you do with the vets, because I have the belief, coming from working with homeless, that those people that were protecting our country should never, ever sleep on our streets. And I'll die on that one. And I believe that. And I think we should be taking care of our veterans. And I commend you on the work that you do with our vets. I'd love you to elaborate more on that.
I'd appreciate that. So locally, my last rotation was 15 months. And I was wound pretty tight when I got back to the States. And in 2008, I got involved with a nonprofit that ended up bringing the Traveling Vietnam Memorial Wall to Moses Lake, Grant County Fairgrounds. There were 25,000 people through the gates, and it was 12 people that made this happen, truly.
Yeah.
I was working 24-hour security with a team from the Vet Center who was there to help family members locate their loved one on the wall. And I'll never forget, 3 o'clock in the morning, a sister of a man who had passed in Vietnam came out. She was too embarrassed to do it in the daylight, but she wanted her stencil with her brother, and that just re-energized me. Yeah. So I sat down with my 3 non-vets, and these guys were tunnel rats and infantry and special forces, and had seen the worst. And they had experienced things that my generation, I hate to label, but you would think they'd be the ones to go into the woods and never talk to anybody again. Right. But here these guys were in town promoting, fundraisers for the veterans' homes, et cetera, and it was cathartic. Yeah. What I've always felt, I am my own branch's worst enemy. If I catch a soldier in the store, mismatch uniform, behaving in a manner that is non-conducive with Army standard, I cannot help myself but go over and say something, because I've always been a firm believer, if you want the credit for the service, you must conduct yourself accordingly.
Exactly.
And just because you're out, you can't run around and say, hi, I'm a vet, and you got to thank me for my service. You got to be doing something.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're just enabling, and then pretty soon, what's the point of that status? There's no sense of pride or ownership in that label anymore. Right. So, yeah, I'm
so glad you said that, and I agree. If you got it's the brand. It's in business. It's the
Yeah,
brand.
in business, it's the brand,
It's the
definitely.
brand. You know, you're 24/7, 365. It's not a 9 to 5 gig. So, what's your favorite leadership quote, if you have one?
Oh, and hate to be so atypical, but one that I've carried around for quite a while. When I asked a question of a supervisor, and we're soaking wet in the rain, doing lightning dispersals, I asked a question that didn't need to be asked. And I was told by my NCO, you need to memorize this, Private. I am a soldier. I fight where I'm told, and I win where I fight. And that fight may be educating, it may be fundraising, it may be storming the wall, but the mentality stays the same, and I've always held on to that.
I love that.
So-
And that's why you've been such a great community person.
Well, thank you. I'm just trying to do my part.
No, and you are an amazing person, and I'm going to close with that. And I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for what you've done to this community and your contributions to this community and you mentoring veterans and young people. You are an example, and I'm proud to call you my friend.
Well, thank you, sir. I
And thanks
appreciate
for
the
sitting in.
opportunity, and look forward to seeing what you got coming down the pipe next.
Yeah, well, might never know.
Never know.
All right, and with that comes the end. And until next time, remember, leadership begins with a relationship. Have a great day.